Your San Francisco 49ers right now, their offense is on a historic pace to do something, to do something that hasn't been done in a long time, and that is have 3 1,000-yard receivers along with a 1,000-yard rusher. All right, so I'm looking at the numbers right now. Brandon Aiyuk, with 3 games to go, has 1,090 yards. You know, the interesting thing about Brandon Aiyuk, with 3 games to go, already having 1,090 yards, I remember saying, man, if he was in a different offense, like he'd be a 1,400-yard receiver. And I still believe, like, if he was in a different offense right now, he would have 1,300. But he has like these weird games when you start to kind of look through Brandon Ayuk's numbers and kind of like look at some games, and it's like, bro, how did it get kind of weird in that spot? Well, because the 49ers in any given game can just kind of like go away from a guy. So I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk stats right now, and there's games like in Seattle, Thursday Night Football, even though he scored a touchdown, and we'll remember that terrific catch by him, terrific throw by Brock Purdy on the touchdown pass, but he only had 4 targets in that game. 2 catches, 4 targets. Last game against the Arizona Cardinals, Brandon Aiyuk, 37 yards, only 37 yards on 5 targets, 3 catches, right? So he has like these weird games that a lot of other guys don't have this many weird games where you're just not targeted a whole lot. Against Jacksonville, he had 55 yards on 3 targets. 3 targets for an entire game. All right, like, and you know, for a guy who is like your number 1 receiver, kind of your main, you know, kind of threat downfield, things like that, I feel like they just tend to kind of go away from guys at times. So I still feel like if he was on another team that emphasized getting him the ball a little bit more, he'd have more yards. Now, maybe because they don't do that, other guys have an opportunity as well to get 1,000 yards. Deebo Samuel, he has 787 yards right now. So we're talking about 213 yards away from going over 1,000 yards. He has 3 games to do it. So maybe you guys can tell me what the math is on that. I'll pull up my handy dandy calculator right now, and let's go 213 divided by 3. So Deebo has to average 71 yards per game to go over 1,000 yards, or to get 8,000 yards. All right. So let's say he has to average 71.5 yards per game to go over 1,000 yards. 3 games, 71.5 yards. He has to average. All right, can he do it? Will he do it? Again, because of how this offense is, maybe he can have one game where he has like 140 yards, and that really helps him. And then another game he has 70 yards. So then the last game he only needs like, I don't know, 5 yards or something like that. That definitely can happen with Deebo Samuel. All right, that definitely can happen. Now, DJ Level says he already has 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and that could be the case. Now, I haven't looked at Deebo's. Let's look at pull up his stats real quick. All right, I don't know how many rushing yards Deebo Samuel has. 172. So he is. I don't think he has 1,000 scrimmage yards, but he's close. He is very close. I think he's like 50 yards shy, if my math is correct. 50 yards shy. So Deebo right there. Either way, George Kittle, 865 receiving yards right now. That means he is roughly 35, right? 135 yards away. So he has 3 games to get 135 yards. And that is, all right, that's 135 divided by 3. So he needs to average 45 yards a game. So I think it actually is kind of likely that George Kittle goes over 1,000. Deebo, that's going to be the interesting one. And also, we got to remember, Deebo he missed the game. First of all, he did miss the game. Aiyuk missed the game as well. So they're doing these numbers well. They did miss a game. But Deebo missed the game. And then Deebo had a game against the Arizona Cardinals where they did not target him for an entire game. He was out there. Damn near every play, Deebo was on the field. And he got 0 targets for an entire game. The reason why I remember this game specifically is because I actually had him on Underdog Fantasy, and he did not get a target. And I was like, what the hell? All right, but I think they kind of used him as a decoy. He was coming off of an injury, wasn't feeling good. They didn't even know if he would be able to suit up. He did suit up. All right, so Deebo has missed time, and again, had that Arizona game where early in the season where he just did not get a target. Otherwise, he might very well have 1,000 yards right now. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, who is already over 1,000 rushing yards, so he's there. And 17, there we go. We got, yeah, he said, yeah, Deebo, he was out in those 3 straight losses. Well, he missed 2 of those games. He played in one, but left early in the first quarter, and then again in that Arizona game. So we got really kind of 4 games where Deebo was kind of like inactive for the most part. All right, so he would probably easily have 1,000 yards right now. But then you have Christian McCaffrey, who has almost 1,300 rushing yards. And I think for him, and I don't know the 49ers record for rushing, but I know Frank Gore had a really big season. I want to say year 2. So let's look at Frank Gore. All right, see if we can pull his numbers up right now. All right, and look at his best season rushing. If I'm not mistaken, it was like a 1,600-yard season. So he had 1,695. That was year 2 from Frank Gore. That's the most yards he ever ran for. That's probably the 49ers record. And does Christian McCaffrey break that? I don't know. He'd need roughly, 400 yards to do it, right? Pretty much right at 400 yards over 3 games. So he can. We didn't see him break off and have some big runs. But he need to go over 1,695 yards. Need over 400 yards. I don't know if that happens. But either way, this 49ers offense right now is on a historic pace. And I think they are doing an amazing job. And it is led by one player who we will talk about in just a second. DJ Level says, we need Kittle to get 1,000 receiving so we can have 4 players with 1,000 from scrimmage and 4,000-yard passer. Never done before, I think. That would be amazing. And I think when people talk about Kyle Shanahan and the legend that he is, I think getting guys in position to do that, right, utilizing them to their strengths, being able to get the most out of guys, I think this is probably like Kyle's best work ever because they're so efficient. They are so aggressive. They're so, think punctual just with everything that they do offensively. And it starts from the top down, and it starts with Kyle Shanahan. So great job. We got Gio Kane. He says Jerry Rice had 22 touchdowns, 12 games. Mind blowing. Yeah. Matter of fact, he didn't have 22 touchdowns, Gio. He had 23 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown in that season. In 12 games, it was a shortened season due to a strike. So they only played 12 games, 23 touchdowns. And people argue about who the GOAT is.